Yeah, I might add too, on a couple of the courses that I've taken through Molly. I took a genealogy course here a couple of years ago, and from that course, we had a interest group that spun off that we would meet at the public library once a month to discuss brick walls we had run into in genealogy. So that's been going on for a couple of years. And that group has been added to by even non-Molly members. Kevin O'Brien, that's taught several archaeology courses, ended up forming an archaeology club. And we would meet at Imagination Brewery for a program that Kevin would put together. And so Molly courses can go on informally, but it is a lot of fun.
I know some of our writing groups have gone on. You know, they've taken a class on writing and then have come together, maybe sometimes paid the instructor themselves outside of Molly. So yeah, it's amazing. And the connections you make with people. There's just so many people in Missoula, so many diverse interests and backgrounds. That's one of the challenges for the instructors is they never know who's sitting in their class. It can be somebody who knows nothing about their subject all the way up to somebody who, you know, maybe also taught on the subject, worked in the field. So discussions in those Molly classes, I think, are very, probably, you just can't top it because you've got so much life experience and different perspectives that come to play in that. And people who really want to be there and really want to learn. And you just couldn't ask for just like a better setup of learning. That whole process of instructor who wants to be there, students that want to be there, students that are, you know, engaged. I always have to kind of giggle to myself, the ones who come in with their notepads and they take all these notes, and there's no tests, there's no quizzes, and they just really like to you know, go back in their notes and look and remember what they're learning. So it's just a wonderful group. I just, on so many levels, I just can't say enough about it. So
okay, I have a question too, but I'm going to save it to the end. Lee, you had another question or comment? You've got to unmute. No, that didn't work.
Push your space bar twice.
No.
There you go.
I wanted to say that Kevin O'Brien, the archaeologist, is giving a course again in the fall, and it's called The Archaeology of Transport. And we'll learn all about the study of man via how they traveled. He's a very good instructor.
Okay. I think I am muted.
Yes.
Finally. My wife and I moved to Missoula in 2011, and I'm sometimes asked, why did you move to Missoula? And there's one word to give as an answer. It's the word culture. When you look at the Molly catalog, there is such a diversity that you can always find one or more classes that are of interest to you. You know, it's like, here we are in a university town, and we're not, at our age, we're not interested in, you know, getting another degree or attending the university. But when you think of the diversity of the subjects that your committee vets and puts in to your offerings, it's just really wonderful that we can always find something that is of interest to us. And I think that diversity is a real strength and makes living in Missoula really, really neat.
Karen, building on Lee's comment, As you probably know, I'm one of the people that's written an email asking about recording and making offerings available outside of the Zoom. The response I've gotten so far is that that's something that Osher imposes on you. Is that accurate, or is this really more subject to your committee, in which case I can start twisting Tom's arm, with other arms to try to get something done?
Yeah. Originally, yes. Sure, really wanted people not to be isolated at home. Isolation is one of the true problems of the aging. And want to bring them into a setting of their peers to keep them also socially engaged. And Osher's looking at, the need to be flexible right now. Bernard Osher is not a fan of Zoom, period, much less the recordings. But there are some that are recording them to play later. And so it's just a stance of what the committee wants to see from Molly. And right now it's wanting to still have that engagement of having members joining, being parts of the discussion, and not being in that isolated part of it where they just choose to sign up and then get the recording for later to watch. And I realize that not everybody, that's not necessarily the case for everybody, that, they're just wanting to watch it at their convenience. So, like I said, it's an ever-changing thought process. And, if this is going on for a term or 2 terms, probably will not change policy on that. But as things continue to grow, where are we going to be at? What are things that we need to do to really get to all of our members? So, like I've told others, you can continue to ask. I continue to send things to them showing, different perspectives both ways. So we're working on that.
Okay, well, I'll continue, but some of the thoughts that crossed my mind are, first, you talked about wanting to increase membership. That would be one way to increase membership, or increase participation in specific classes, which would mean more revenue. The other is that, yes, you're talking about social engagement. I think in this day and age, unfortunately, Zoom is become our primary medium for lots of social engagement. And this group here is an example.
Right.
Very few of us really want to risk going to the country club to have a delicious breakfast, even though the real bacon tastes a hell of a lot better than the virtual bacon. But
plus you can't smell that virtual bacon.
Exactly. That's the worst part.
Yeah. There's a lot of issues involved with the recordings, how and where to house them. FERPA plays in. Some of our instructors are concerned about, their intellectual property. Some instructors are concerned about their recordings getting out there and maybe being pieced and parted into out of context pieces. Because some are just real controversial. And so those are things too that they look at in regards to, we have 3 staff members, and figuring out how to control those videos. I know one of the things with FERPA is that technically only people who have registered for the class can actually watch the class, like get the link to watch it. So once we send that link out or make it available, what happens from there? There are some issues with the recording may have to stop before the question and answer period because some people don't want to be on, you know, don't want to have their questions and answers on the recording. So if they were to start a recording, it would probably not be courses as much as it would be the special member events, only because we can control those so much easier because we do those on a webinar platform instead of the Zoom platform. And, you know, so, and that would also entail staff cutting out the question and answer periods at the end of the course recording. So there's just all of that involved also, that they're also taking that into, you know, into their thought processes. Do we have the staff and the ability to do all of those things and do them in a manner that we're doing it correctly in time to get it out there? You know, I think all of us are thinking, well, we all quarantined for 2 months. It was going to be over. Our lives are going to return to normal. No. So are we going to work on this and lives return to normal in the spring and we never get a chance to even get it off the ground? So some thought, I mean, those are just things that I'm picking up in the discussions and their thought processes. So.
Okay, well, I'll keep on insisting. Thank you.
You're welcome. I noticed Tom's not weighing in. He's just hiding down there.
Yeah, that's normal.
That's normal for him. Oh, there he is.
Nice job, Karen.
Hey,
I
want to you enjoyed the what?
The presentation. Not having teenagers living with us in the house, there's always a technical glitch here and there, and I ran into it. So I missed your first 5-6 minutes of the presentation. But other than that, it sounded great.
Okay. Well, and let me introduce you to the new vice chair of Molly. Look at him. He's just ducking down there. Does he have another technical issue? Yeah.
Oh, congratulations, Tom. I didn't realize you were now vice chair.
Now he's mad. He's also chair of the finance committee, just to tell you that too. He's quite busy.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Karen or comments about Molly? Sandy?
Karen, I wanted to ask, because we're Zooming and you don't need to rent classroom space, are we saving a lot of money?
So this year, I'm hoping that what we save will pay for Sierra. We brought Sierra on 32 hours, just needing that, you know, back support of monitoring the classes full time. And Terry, we had her on for 20 hours a week, but now need her more. We may even find that 32, when we're running classes every day of the week, we may need her actually, you know, up to the 40. But I kind of crunched numbers and figured that what we save in classroom space will pay for Sierra this year. So if we want to keep Sierra ongoing, you know, we need to, I'm always crunching numbers. Tom can tell you, I'm pinching pennies all the time.
A brief comment as a follow-up to Karen. I think Sandy asked the question, if I'm not mistaken. We don't know exactly what the finances are going to be like in the upcoming year, never having depend on Zoom presentations solely. I mean, no face-to-face interactions. And so membership as well as enrollment in classes is a major driver of our finances. So if we have a good turnout in terms of membership and people signing up for the Zoom classes, that will help us obviously financially. If there's a big downturn in terms of enrollments due to Zoom, then we might face major problems with regard to finances. So it's unknown whether or not simply not having to pay for classroom rental, if that's going to set us free, or we're just going to have a bigger problem on top of that.
And one of the things we're facing is so endowments, the two endowments help support Molly by the earnings of those endowments. So most of you are probably aware that those sit in accounts and we can't actually access the principal. We can only access the earnings on those endowments and only up to a certain percentage. And with the downturn in the stock market, what we could maybe take from those endowments this year could be down significantly, which also affects, you know, the Molly finances and the ability to pay all of our expenses. So those are two of our biggest hurdles for this year.
Lee?
Hey, I unmuted successfully that time. In my last comment, I talked about how culturally diverse all of your offerings are. And you were talking about, Zoom, which we have to do in this time period versus the in-person. The in-person is, I think, half of the value of Molly, or almost half the value. For example, I met Bill Lawrence, I believe, in a Zoom class. Wasn't that right, Bill? And
Probably a Molly, not a Zoom.
I meet Molly, yeah, through, in person is when I met him. I also met a couple that we became really good friends with, and they happen to have moved away from Missoula, but I've developed some friendships. I've also connected with one of the instructor who I'm working on a project with. So those are things that I don't think ever could have happened on the Zoom platform, which I realize we have to have now, so that those in-person connections between the participants and the instructor and between participants, I think is extremely valuable. And you might even consider, I think people, at least in our 50 and up and older category, if you have to raise your rates modestly, I would think that most people could afford it, because you're really giving very high value at a pretty modest cost. And you can even offer scholarships if people, say they couldn't afford a price raise, but do consider raising your prices to get through this crisis that that you're financially facing this year and next year. I sort of think a lot of people would think is well worth whatever extra dollars it might cost.
Yeah. So you brought up about the scholarships, and we do have a tuition waiver that we have currently for people who can't afford either all or part of their courses. And so we advertise that in our catalog. We do have a number of people who call because we always ask them to talk to us directly about that. It's not difficult to get that. So if people do need help, or somebody who just hasn't joined because they can't afford the classes, we do require that they pay the $20 membership, and they do get the special member events for free with that $20. But if they wanted to take a course and couldn't afford it, we do have a tuition waiver program in place.
That's good. How many people take advantage of that on the average? Just curious.
Yeah. I think probably our highest term was a 10 that took advantage of it. Now, it ranges from, they can have up to $100, and some as low as, $5. You know what I'm saying? Like, all I have to give you is $55 for this course. Can you take that? Yes. I want to take these 2 courses, but I can't afford it at all. So we do have, and we do ask people to pay what they can. So it's, we just want everybody to be able to take advantage of Molly, no matter their socioeconomic status. So,
Bill?
Yeah, you might add, Karen, too, that there's going to be some reluctance, I think, among seniors to use the Zoom format. And you or Terry or both have posted on Moodle some good instruction, information, and you can go on YouTube also to learn how to use Zoom. So you might forward that message on to the people also if there's a reluctance
Yeah.
on taking classes. So.
We do hold a number of practice sessions with students. So if they're not used to using it and they call in and want to try it out, we do practice sessions with them and help walk them through the process. One of the things I wanted to speak to is we've learned a lot in this process. And some of the things is that there's a certain reluctance when it comes to the electronic versions of things. And some of the people that were most reluctant are the ones who are now needing it the most. And the reason is because they've taken it seriously, but still need a connection. And so we've really worked with people to make sure that they can connect and, see these, hear them. We have one lady who all she has is a flip phone. And she used to use the computers at the library to get her email, etc. So what she did when we had the Brahms class in the summer was she just called into the phone number and listened to the course. And for people who have internet connections that are unstable, we will try to get the PowerPoint ahead of time and send to them so that they can just listen and follow along on their own copy of the PowerPoint. So we're becoming very creative on how we do things and make sure that the students do have that that support all along the way. So it's been a process, and when our instructors too, a number of our instructors are in our same age group, and they're having to overcome a certain amount of anxiety also. But I will say, when we were talking about engagement, we had a class, a course this summer called Deliberative Democracy, and it used breakout rooms in Zoom. And some of the feedback we got was that in those breakout rooms, they learned more about their fellow classmates than they would have in class, because there was not that distraction. There wasn't the one of the three in the group leaving to go to the bathroom or going up to talk to the instructor. They really, talked with each other and learned a lot about each other. And so those small breakout sessions, the people really like those. So I know at least one of the instructors this fall is going to use them. Emily Walter, she's doing a poetry course, and so she's going to use the breakout rooms. So, you might see more of that as we go along too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I took the deliberative democracy class, and I have to say it was the best one I've ever taken, because the groups were small and we didn't have the noise of the other people in the class. So it was very special.
Well, Karen, thank you very much.
Oh, James, I think May had a question.
Okay, May?
I just wanted to make a comment, first of all, to people like Karen and all those who are doing a job that they never ever thought they were signing up for, and the innovation and the creativity and the effort that's going into that. But I was also curious as to your road to Molly and how you got into this business.
What was the last comment, May? The what?
Your road to Molly and how you got started.
Oh, so I worked for Social Security for 27 years in differing roles. I started out basically when there was one computer per office, and I did all the inputs in the Social Security office, and then became a service representative, a claims representative, a technical expert. Then I moved into the technology side, which was very helpful during this period of time. and teaching people how to use their computers at work and the programs that we had, and did trainings on programs. So that's been especially helpful during this period of time. And I retired. I took an early out retirement from there, and then decided that I really couldn't be retired at my age. It was boring at home. So I had a friend that worked at the university, and the job came up at the School of Extended and Lifelong Learning. And so I got in there, and the Molly program manager who was there at the time only started a couple months before me. And then she decided to move back east. And I was working behind the scenes a little bit with Molly, but then decided that I might as well jump in with both feet. At that time, I wasn't sure that I wanted to fully come out of retirement. But then with the Molly, I did. And the things that Molly brings to me are, when I was in high school and trying to decide what I was going to do, I so loved talking to people 50 and older, because I love their stories. I mean, my grandparents, the stories they had. We had a secret grandparent program at my high school. I just so loved working with them. And the only things that I could really visualize would be, more nursing homes and different things like that. And felt like maybe those weren't the happiest of places to be. And I just happened to be going to college and took what they used to take. They used to give these government clerk typist tests. And I took the clerk typist test and got in with the government, with Social Security. And it was like that job was made for me. It had everything I ever wanted: math, computers, the people that I enjoyed being around. And I never thought I'd find another job like that. And Molly has all of that and so much more. The creativity side that I didn't get at Social Security, when it comes to the ads in the paper and the catalogs and all of that. It's just amazing. Again, it feels like a job that I, was dreamed up just for me. So
We're clearly lucky to have you on board and doing what special now with all of the changes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you.
One other thing to mention to the group, which has nothing to do with Molly, or not tangentially has something to do with Molly. Many of you will remember Edwin Berry, a physicist who came to talk to us to try to convince us that humans were not in any way responsible for the increase in CO2. Very controversial session that we had. Well, one of the members of the committee at Molly, Dave Andrews, is also a physicist, and he's just about to publish a paper pointing out one of the many mistakes that Mr. Berry made. So if anyone's interested in that, I'll see if I can get a link to that paper. If nothing else, I'll probably send it to Rudy. So.
And I just want to say that I think Dave was probably going to teach in the winter term.
That's what he said.
So, yeah. And he's taken some courses and sat in on some things to get ready for Zoom. So I think he's ready to jump into that. So we have not made a decision regarding the winter term. We wait before each term, before I have to get the catalog really going, is when the council decides on the next term. So no decisions have been made for the full year. So, probably about October will be when the council will need to make a decision for the winter term. So just keep your ears and eyes peeled for that. So, okay.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Karen. That was great. Thank you, Bill,
Thank you.
for inviting her.